I made Claire Saffitz croissant recipe and Food and Wine's croissant recipe to see which one is better.
The difference is huge.
Food and Wine's recipe started with mixing melted butter and milk into the yeast mixture. Then I had to gradually add in the flour mixture until the dough was smooth, elastic, and tacky. My dough was the opposite of that. Mine was extremely dry and was barely sticking together. I put my dough in the fridge and let it rest overnight. I'm reattempting the dough with Claire Saffitz recipe because the dough I made last night is not looking good. I've made Food and Wine's croissant recipe twice before, and both times the dough started off rough, but the end product came out perfectly. However, this time I had my doubts, so I decided to try Claire Saffitz version. I made sure to measure extra precisely this time, so I wouldn't form another dry croissant dough. After resting the dough for 10 minutes, I added in my butter pieces. This dough formed into a smooth, stretchy dough. The dough was so much better. I slashed the dough into a plus sign, which made it easier to roll into a rectangle later on. This dough went into the fridge to rest for 26 hours. The recipe says to only rest it up to 12 hours. Oops. In the meantime, I enclosed a giant butter block in Food and Wine's dough and rolled it out. Every time I've made this recipe, I've needed 1 to 2 people's help to roll it out because it is such a tough dough to roll out and it constantly shrinks in shape. It is truly the most strenuous arm workout. And the worst part is that you have to do this rolling and folding process 2 more times.
You can tell it's very close to all
Breaking apart. You lose a whole day by making these. A few hours later, I cut the dough into triangles, rolled them into croissant shapes, and rested them in the fridge overnight. Since I had little faith in the Food and Wine dough, I gave my relative half of the dough to make Queen Amandes with.
Oh, that's so old now, isn't it?
The fit of it. What the
The night was still young, so it was now time for me to deal with Claire's dough. I took it out of the fridge, flattened it, wrapped it up, and into the freezer it went for 20 minutes. These recipes really test my patience. After those 20 minutes, I rolled the dough and locked a block of butter into it, sealing all sides so the butter wouldn't leak out. I had to roll and fold this dough quite a few times too. Finally, this dough went into the fridge to rest overnight, and I went to bed having nightmares about both of these croissant doughs. I woke up the next day at 7:24 a.m. to cut Claire's dough into triangles, roll them out, and then roll them into shape. Claire's looks so much better in comparison. After both doughs proofed, I brushed the egg mixture onto the croissants, and finally, into the oven they went. So this is Claire's and this is Food and Wine. The Food and Wine one I have now made 3 times. This is my first time making Claire's. Let me try the Food and Wine one. It's very bready in the middle. Now let me try Claire's. Unfortunately, this one did get too dark on the bottom that this could have used 2 or 3 minutes less, but it's okay. Claire's is superior. Let me see a cross section of each. Wow. Food and Wine versus Claire's. Come on, the difference is huge. This one doesn't even come close to Claire's. The textures of the 2 croissants are very different, but the flavor is about the same. I just should have used a higher quality butter because it's not as flavorful as it could be, but it's still very good.